Hello everybody, my name is Nisha. I am pursuing my PhD in the Department of Electrical Engineering at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. I belong to the Spire Lab and my advisor is Dr. Prashanta Kumar Ghosh. In this video, I will be talking very briefly about the work I am doing in my PhD. As the title suggests, I am trying to develop a speaker-independent, whispered speech to natural speech conversion system. To understand the motivation for this work, I would like to review some basic concepts of speech production. The lungs provide the pulmonary pressure that forces the air to pass through this region, which contains the voice box. It then enters the vocal tract, where the articulators like the tongue, lips, and the jaw move in order to produce different sounds. For example, for vowels and voiced consonants, the vocal folds in the voice box vibrate, and for unvoiced consonants, they don't. The vocal fold vibrations determine the pitch of a person's voice. To illustrate, here is an fMRI video where you can see the vocal folds and the articulators like the tongue, lips, jaw, etc. moving during speech production.
This was easy for us. Jane may earn more money by working hard.
Alright, so with that, we can move into my work. In the production of whispered speech, the vocal folds typically do not vibrate. So whispered speech lacks pitch. Whispered speech is typically produced in private conversations and also arises in pathological situations like laryngectomy, spasmodic dysphonia, etc. For example, laryngectomy involves the removal of the entire or a part of the voice box for patients suffering from laryngeal cancer. It is estimated that by 2020, there will be around 34,000 laryngectomy patients in India alone. So the speech they produce is typically whispered. Whispered speech is also less intelligible compared to normal speech. So I want to develop a whispered speech to natural speech conversion system that is speaker independent. There are many challenges involved while developing such a system. Whispered speech is very different from natural speech, so the algorithms available for normal speech can't be used directly for whispered speech. By now, you must be curious about how whispering sounds like, right? Let me now give you an example of how whispered speech sounds. The graph or the plot you see in blue is the speech waveform for normal speech and for whispered speech. Below the plots, you can see what is called the spectrogram. The spectrogram shows the spectrum of the speech with time. Let's now hear it.
If it doesn't matter who wins, why do we keep score?
That was normal speech, and now you will hear whispered speech.
If it doesn't matter who wins, why do we keep score?
I hope you were able to perceive the differences. In the time domain, as well as in the frequency domain, we can see that there are significant differences between the two types of speech. Here is another example of a male speaker saying Abba in normal speech.
Abba.
And in whispered speech. You can see that there is some periodicity in the waveform of the normal speech, while whispered speech typically looks noisy. Now that you have seen and heard how different whispered speech is compared to normal speech, let me quickly explain the steps involved in my work. So this is what we would like to have at the end of this PhD, which is a system that would take whispered speech as input like this.
If it doesn't matter who wins, why do we keep score?
And convert it to normal speech like this.
If it doesn't matter who wins, why do we keep score?
The main issue with whispered speech is that it does not have pitch. So we need to estimate it and insert the pitch into the whispered speech to make it sound like normal. So here we see the block diagram of such a process. Whispered speech enters the system. This could be produced by a patient or in a private conversation. To have further processing, we need to first detect the whispered speech segments in the input speech. This is a challenging step because, like you heard earlier, whispered speech itself sounds a lot noisy. After this, we could do an automatic gender classification from whispered speech to choose what pitch values should be used for the reconstruction. Then, in the pitch insertion step, the chosen pitch can be incorporated in the whispered speech to produce natural or normal speech. The boxes with the asterisk in them indicate that I have already done some work in these areas. To check out all my published work and for other details, you can visit my webpage. To know more about the kinds of work my advisor and my lab is into, please visit these web pages. If you want to contact us for further details or queries, please feel free to do so. Here are our email IDs. So that was a short description of my work in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoy working on it. And thank you so much for your attention.